Well, a ton. Like I said last week, our games get on ESPN as far as the schedule goes, so that ticker is 24/7. So tomorrow we'll be a part of that ticker of playing on Wednesday, and on Friday we'll be a part of. So we'll actually Tuesday and Wednesday and Friday, Saturday of this week we're on national TV, just part of the ticker, just because we're a top 25 program, and that's huge. Recruits see that, fans across the country see that. So anytime your name just gets out there like that. That's all part of that national brand that we've been after. So it's very big to be there that early in the season is big for us.
Coach, I know this time of year you're not paying attention as closely to the Mountain West teams, but the Mountain West now has 3 teams in both polls and 3 teams receiving votes in both polls. So 6 Mountain West teams getting some votes this week. What do you think of that?
That's and you got Air Force that lost possession to Wichita, who's probably arguably the first or second best team in the Valley with Creighton. Creighton's been beat by Boise at home, so it's our league is going to be a tremendous league. That's why it's important that we continue to hopefully stay healthy and keep getting better. We know we've got a very high ceiling yet, and that's why we got to keep getting better, because once January hits, I think this schedule is going to end up being brutal, but the schedule in January and February is shaping up to be as good as it's ever been.
We talked a little bit last week when I asked you about the Missouri Valley Challenge, and you guys haven't had a problem scheduling those types of teams. Some of these other Mountain West teams have, but the benefit to UNM for the whole league to be good is what?
For our whole league to be good?
For the whole Mountain West to be good, what's the benefit?
Well, it's really good. I think that's really good, top to bottom. I don't know if that challenge per se has anything with the growth of this league. I don't know if I'm willing to say the challenge has had anything to do with that. I think we've had a change in coaches across the league in the last 2 or 3 years, and I think there's been improvements in a lot of areas, including talent. So I think that's part of it. And the majority of our league, not all of our league teams, but the majority of our league is scheduling up, and that's a good thing.
USC's obviously got a lot of height. Do they play both 7-foot?
They do at times. They haven't a lot, but they do at times. But we're going to, regardless, all night long, we're going to see a 7-foot center, 7 foot plus. So they're a very big team, physical team. Their guards are very good. So this is about as good a 500 basketball team as you're going to find. One of the reasons why they're 3-3, they've played a brutal schedule. If our strength of schedule's 16, theirs has got to be 1, 2, 3, because they've played everybody. And this week they're playing at Nebraska and at UNM, so it doesn't get any easier. So they have played a lot of tough competition. So they're all much, much better than a 3-3 team.
How often do you see your team going with both your big men?
We don't know. We'll have to see. That's always kind of a feel thing. We practice it, but it's a feel thing. Chad Adams is playing terrific right now, so I don't see his minutes being reduced. He's given us a lot of positive minutes. Doesn't mean we won't rotate the bigs in there like we did in the second half of the Indiana State game. We went with a 3-man rotation instead of 4. Nick is still learning. Nick's going to be very good before it's all over with, but he's still in the learning process being a freshman.
They beat Texas and almost pulled off an upset against San Diego State because they were down a ton. What is it going to mean for you guys to put together a full 40 minutes and try to keep the pressure on?
Well, we just got to keep doing what we're doing. We've played a very difficult schedule. We've got a great RPI, a great overall record, and we're not shooting the ball well. So it's kind of like, we were talking about, and will tell us we got to continue to improve defensively, because our guys fight. We're competing like crazy. They fight hard on every possession, and that's the reason why we're 8-0. We're not 8-0 because we're shooting it at a 55% clip. We're shooting it around 40%, and we've got guys that can make shots. So it's like the sun coming up and setting. It happens every day, and that's what our defense has to be. It's got to be constant. That's got to keep improving. And then, every now and then when you get to see those shooting stars and those things go in, then we become a much better basketball team. When we start making shots, you're going to see us, elevate what we're doing. But we had Mercer down 28. Mercer wins at Florida State. We beat George Mason in a tough game. They lead Maryland at Maryland about the whole way. Davidson's lost 1 game since they left here. We've played a very good schedule. UConn's only got 1 loss on the year. We've played a very good schedule, and we have not shot the ball well. We're not shooting a 3 well. We're not shooting overall well. And yet we're sitting there at 8-0. So it's the fight, it's the competitiveness. That's got to stay there, and the shooting will eventually come. And when it comes, we got a chance to become a better team.
How do you approach that in practice in terms of trying to get the guys to have that complete game?
Tell them that. Just continue to tell them that. No, we're not putting pressure on their shooting. And to be honest with you, I could care less. If we shoot 40% the rest of the way and continue to fight and scrap and win, and so be it. There's not. And when you say complete games, that's we've put together some pretty complete games. Our incompleteness, if you're calling it that, is the inability to make shots. We're not going to be perfect. If there's got to be some imperfect stuff to our game, I don't want it to be in the area of guarding people and fighting and competing. And our guys have gone way above and beyond that early in the season through 8 games. If they can sustain that level of fight for a 5-month period, that's special. And so that's what I don't want to see drop. I think we'll end up making shots, and then the offense will flow better once we make shots. But until then, let's keep fighting like crazy and finding ways to win. And they've done that. If you look at George Mason, we made shots late. UConn, we make shots late. Davidson, we make shots late. Indiana State, they made a huge run. We had them down 19 on their home floor. They had a week to prepare for us. We played on Wednesday night. They had a full week to get ready for us, and at halftime we're down 14 with 15 minutes to go. They're down 19. They made a great run because we didn't make any shots. It's a great credit to their defense. But then in the overtime, it's 13-4. They're just they're a bunch of guys that really fight, and that's fun to coach.
Speaking of the shooting, USC and Coach O'Neill's a tough team to try and break out of.
No,
shooting.
you're exactly right. No, they're exactly right. They're a very good defensive team. They're strong. They're physical, and now at their size, they've always shrunk the court before on your defense because they don't really get out and extend a lot. They really, from three-point line down, they're really good defensively. And now when you put all that length and athleticism in there, there's not a lot of opening spots. So we're going to have to execute our offense well. But I think a lot of that will be our transition. Can we get defensive stops and run in transition to try to get some easy scores and not battle that all night long? And that's been, I think the teams that have beaten them have been able to do those things. If you get into a slugfest, the game's going to be in the 40s, and you got to hope you come up in the end, kind of like what we did a year ago in their building.
You mentioned them being athletic. How do you guys match up with them athletically?
I think athletically we're fine. They're obviously taller than we are. I got 2 7-footers, 2 7+, but their 4 men are 6'6", just like Chad and Nick are 6'6" and 6'8". Our guards are every bit as big, if not bigger, than their guards. So really the only position is the center spot where they can throw 2 7-foot+ guys at you.
What's the maturity level been like for Kendall Williams? He just seems to be making plays, whether it's scoring or passing. He just seems to be doing everything right.
Well, and he's figuring out that it's not always just about scoring or always about making shots. Maybe it's getting a defensive play. Maybe it's his assist turnovers are really good. He's defending well. He's just doing a lot of good. I think he and Hugh, statistically, Hugh hadn't been great. But, it goes back to you're the quarterback. There's some quarterbacks in the NFL that statistically are not very good, and they don't win. Hugh doesn't have great stats from an assist standpoint yet. A lot of that has to do because who's he throwing it to is not making shots. But Hugh finds a way to win. He finds a way to beat you. And that's a characteristic of a very good player, and Kendall's got those same characteristics.
Other than the one game, and I know we've seen him do it in the past, but other than the one game this year, Demetrius has not performed very well. Is he pressing? Is there something to that?
Well, and he's got to bust out of that. That's on him. And I would agree. He hasn't had the best start through 8 games. He has not had a great start to the season. He's an outstanding basketball player that, again, when he hits rhythm, that's why we keep talking about our ceiling. When he hits rhythm, when you got some freshmen that are just going to keep getting better and better as the year goes out, so I think we can improve there. Alex is learning. I thought Alex looked a little bit tired at Indiana State. He hadn't had to go through a stretch like this. We got to get through these next 2 games so that he can have finals and have a week to where he doesn't play anymore because this has been hard on him. It's hard on 7-foot guys anyway, but we've had brutal travel. We've traveled everywhere. We've had a lot of tough travel, stayed in a lot of hotels, a lot of buses, a lot of airplanes, 8 games in a few amount of days. It's hard on him, especially somebody that's 7 foot and hadn't played for 500 days. So hopefully we can get another good week out of him, and then we can start getting some rest.
With the holiday break, is that going to really help with not having to worry about class
That's what we're trying to get to, and these two games are pivotal. If we can get to these two games, they got finals next week. We can get some practice in, but obviously the concentration will be academically, and hopefully then we get to break starting with New Mexico State and practice when we want to practice time-wise and really try to maximize some rest for the guys.